here. What else? Okay. So
maybe people think that it starts at 3.
Yeah, this is the reason we were talking about this.
Yeah. Oh, you talked about it. Sorry.
but we finally decide to start. So
No, we can maybe, because the problem is that at 5 there is an lecture.
Yes, maybe it's.
So if we resign, start at 3, we don't make break, and then we have half an hour to get there, which is on the limit of possible.
maybe we can also start now. And if there are plenty of people arriving at 3, then we change the plane. And, but if there is nobody who's starting at 3, then okay?
That's right. That sounds okay.
If it's okay for you. Okay, first of all, many people making talks and so on start with that I thank you for giving me the opportunity, and didn't start my course like that, because up to now, I didn't say I was truly making a course. But now, I thank you for giving
I never suffered like writing this long paper.
So, I recall that it's work with Katsutoshi Shinohara. And the goal is to build a C1 open set of diffeomorphisms on M3, on a three-dimensional manifold, so that, let's say O here, if you have F C1 generic in O, then F has uncountably many aperiodic classes which are different from odometers. So yesterday I put a list of the property which shows that we can have a very large variety of dynamics inside the aperiodic classes, but I will not restate all because it's not so fun. So let me start with the setting on.
It was already known that you can have uncountably many odometers in this generic sense.
Oh yes, yeah. That is, we have also open set where we have what we call universal dynamics. Mm-hmm. That is, we have uncountably many things. And if you look at finite scale, not going to the end of the branches, but you see what you want. Mm. So that we already know. And to have plenty of aperiodic classes, yes, we know from a long time.
So the limit of this tree you draw.
Yes, I want that the limit of the trees will not be. So if the technique is to build small balls with long period, you always have odometers. So we don't want to have small balls with long period. We want to have another dynamics at each step. Okay? Okay.
Because in the tree it repeated the same.
So yes, we have a tree of things which repeat, but the element of the tree will never be small balls. That, okay. Okay, so for the moment, the setting will be what we call filtrating Markov partitions. So what we mean by that, first it's a Markov partition, so we have rectangles. So our rectangles will be disks, D2 times 0, 1. We'll draw smaller for having two of them, at least. So let's put one disk here. We'll put another there. Okay, we have disks which are D2 times 0, 1. On to be, so rectangles, Ri, which are disjoint. So they are embedded disjoint on what we make Markovian is the usual Markov property. So what we need is that, so let's call F the diffeomorphism. If you look at F of the rectangle, you make the intersection with another rectangle, and you look at some connected component. A connected component has to be like that. So that is, I will call that a vertical subrectangle, which is a solid cylinder crossing from the bottom to the top. Okay, so that are the notion of cutting in a Markovian way for the positive iteration. Okay? And for the negative one, so the connected component is a vertical subrectangle. For the moment, it has only topological meaning. We will put a differentiable meaning in. And now, if you look at the inverse image, f minus 1 of Rj intersection with Ri, and you look at the connected component, so this time the intersection will be like that. The image, the pre-images will be like that, cutting as so I can cut the same several times. So for instance, I can make a large disk here, which cut once. Sorry, that one was not good. So I can have an image which is like that, which cut here this rectangle the first time, and then continue and cut back there in another. So all that is what I call horizontal subrectangle. Okay, so for that is the topological meaning on being Markov partition, but I have a specific word here which is filtrating, so I want that the union of the Ri is a filtrating set that is A intersection with R, with A is an attacking region, on R a repelling region. That is very practical because when you have a filtrating region, you know that what is going outside never come back. If it goes outside the repeller, it cannot go back in the repeller. And if it goes outside by negative iterated, it will be from the attractor and it cannot go back. So that's practical because you know where is the dynamic and you know that you cannot have to take care of what is outside, how it go back. Okay, but for the moment, it's just a topological setting, but we do that in a partially hyperbolic setting. So it will partially, there are many partial hyperbolic structures, and it's always a decomposition with some stable on one. So here we will just require one center stable bundle and some strong unstable bundle. So this one has dimension 2, and this one 1. Here, we don't require any contraction nor expansion. The unique thing we need is that any expansion here is strictly less than any expansion here. So we have a very strong expansion. On there, we may have contraction, expansion. Mostly we have contraction. For example, we can assume, it's not necessary, but we can assume that the determinant in the center of df in the center stable direction, we can assume less than 1. That will forbid that in this setting we have any source. Always in this setting.
picture you have contraction.
In the picture we have topological contraction. You don't know what happened in some disk here. In this small disk, you may have you have to look very well, but you can have some expansion somewhere. Okay. And indeed, we will have. In fact, we already have seen once this setting when I made the solenoid and I put inside a small plicking attractor. So when the plicking attractor, you have some expanding direction, and that makes typically this one. And in fact, I wanted to give you an example of this setting. For making it, I will start with the solenoid. Start with the solenoid. That is, you put that and you put it back twice. So consider the solenoid. So for the moment, you think it is uniformly attracting, okay, but no, we will change that. But what I want to do here is that is no more an attractor. So assume that here I have a fixed point. So I will change it. I will change this part by I will break the expansion, the strong expansion, and I will open it, making some things which is like a derived from an oscilloscope, so it will be a derived from solenoid. That is, I break it, making here and here I put some no, in the other direction. So I put an attracting. I put here an attracting region. So here I have an attracting region. Remove it. So now the image of this one, it's I have a unique cylinder, and it cut twice, passing a little bit there, passing a little bit there, and so on here. Continue there and there. And that is a filtrating Markov partition, because I have this attracting region that we still see here. And now if you take the complement, which is all this part, so here I put some more things which is attracting, so the complement is a repelling region. If I make the intersection of the complement of that with my attracting region, I get precisely my cylinder, which is a filtrating Markov partition. So that is a setting, this kind of setting that we are looking here. I forget to make the relation with the partial hyperbolicity. So when you have this setting, you have an invariant cone field. So you have a strong unstable cone field in the unstable direction. And you have, so this is invariant by df. So if you look at its image by df, you have a thinner on so that will be df of stu. And you have at the contrary, so if you look at the complement, so the complement of so this part here, so by df minus 1, it is invariant. So that is df minus 1 of CTS. Okay. So we have one cone field which is invariant positively, and the other which is invariant negatively. And what I required is that every vertical for any x times 0, 1 is tangent to the center, to the strong unstable cone field, and for any t, d2 times t is tangent to the center stable cone field. As the cone field is invariant, when I iterate the verticals, they remain in the cone field. So this means that these vertical subrectangles are always foliated by curves which are tangent to the strong unstable cone field, and at the contrary, the horizontal disks are always tangent to this center stable cone field. So we keep the notion of horizontality by iteration, and we keep the notion of verticality also by iteration. So that is the general setting. Yes. So here I have some first notion that I need associated to that. I will have plenty of periodic points there, some with very small stable or stable manifold of dimension 1, but I will say that, let's take a periodic point. We say that P has a large stable manifold, if, sorry, maybe I should first, I had to say something here directly. So if you take the negativity rate, it's horizontal subrectangles. On the top and the bottom need to be tangent to the center stable cone, so to remain mostly horizontal. And also, we have a strong contraction if we iterate negatively, so they are very thin. So when you continue iterating, they tend to disks. So if you look at the intersection of the f minus n of the union of the Ri, or 0 to plus infinity, that is the lamination by disks. Let's say dx is a disk through a point x. So you have a family. So if you iterate negatively, you have a collection of horizontal disks. Okay, so I will say that a point as a large stable manifold is the disk through that point is included in its stable manifold. Okay, so that is, I have my point here on its stable manifold is the whole disk here. Okay, so that is the notion of being a large stable manifold. But because of the topological behavior, the Markovian behavior, if you have the preimage of a disk consists in whole disks. So if P has a large stable manifold, you know in pacing theory you can have large stable manifold as a point, but you iterate and it becomes small. But here not because of the Markovian behavior. You take a point P, if its stable manifold is large, at its preimage also. So you have that f minus 1 of P has large stable manifold. And so as P is periodic, you can do that until the rest. So to be large stable manifold is a property that is on the whole orbit. I forgot to say here that when you have such a Markov partition, you have a matrix for telling what rectangle to what other rectangle. And just looking at the matrix, you know if you can go from one rectangle to any other rectangle, and that is what I assume. So I assume that the transition matrix is transitive. And so with that, you get that to any, so remark, if P1, P2 have both large stable manifold, they are homoclinically related. That's because when you iterate positively, the unstable manifold is increasing, pass through every rectangle, and your large stable manifold is cutting your rectangle into pieces, so you have no way for not crossing. So like that, we have a homoclinic class containing all the orbit with large stable manifolds. But if you have 2 points which are homoclinically related, you have a hyperbolic basic set. And in this basic set, the size of the stable manifold vary continuously. So every periodic orbit in this basic set close enough to P has also a large stable manifold. So we have plenty of points with large stable manifold, and in fact, we can check that in this lamination by disks, densely, it corresponds to points with large stable manifold. So you asked me if there was other things than contraction. You see, for most of the disk, you just see contraction. Okay. So we have plenty of points with large stable manifold. Let's see what we do now. So let's now define the open set on the way for proving what we want. So we have my Ri filtrating Markov partition. My point P with large stable manifold. I want some point P prime homoclinically related with P on with complex eigenvalue with complex stable eigenvalue. And I want also a point Q whose index is not the same as P, that is with, so I want Q in the class of P, in the chain recurrent class of P, and that robustly. And so that the dimension of the stable manifold of Q is 1. So I put in the same class point of different indices in the robust way. We have already seen that once, by surgery putting a plick in. So it's not like that we do, but that's a way for doing it. So at least that gives you an example. So we can put a point with a different index in the same setting. Okay. So that is, I think, all what I need. That is all what I need. I call that a property P. And I want to prove it is not the complete, we need more than that, but at least we have that as a byproduct, is that P is a viral property. Okay. So let me make a remark here. The fact that I assume in my that the partial hyperbolic setting and the fact that the Jacobian in the center is less than 1 makes that we have this strongly uniform direction, we have no small ball coming back inside itself. Close to this setting, there is no possibility to have a return of a ball inside itself, just because we have mostly contraction in one direction and mostly expansion in the other. So there is no possibility to have this easy way of making aperiodic classes. Okay. And that will not be enough for what I announced. We will need to be viral means that this setting, by small perturbation, put outside new classes with the same, with a new filtrating Markov partition and so on, with all these properties. Okay, but we will need to choose carefully what we are expelling like that. And I will try to tell you when it's appear. So now I will present you some ideas. So if you maybe you are a little bit lost already, but if you are not, that is an idea that can be useful anyway for other purpose, and I indeed used for other purpose. And this new idea is the notion of flexible points. So that was our setting, and that is where here we have to deal with these dynamics, but I need a new tool. Okay. Which is, we are flexible. I don't know if it's possible to read that. Oh. So in my setting, I have plenty of periodic orbits, so the period can may tend to infinity, and my periodic orbit can pass close to some place where you have in the center direction one eigenvalue larger than one on the other contracting, so you have contraction expansion, but after that you pass close to points which have complex eigenvalues, so you start running, so you are mixing the direction by this complex eigenvalue, and then you pass to another which is contracting, so you have some linear algebra to do there, because each time your orbit pass close to some orbit, it follows the derivative of that orbit a long time. So now you have, and so this allows the strange things that I will present now. So, definition. You fix some epsilon, positive, and I will say that X periodic is epsilon flexible. If the first thing is I always require that X has a large stable manifold, so that but there exists. I want that there exist linear maps A0T until AKT. T will be a parameter between -1 and 1, and K is the period of X, -1. Or maybe it's better to put period, so I will put -1 here. Okay? So I need so these are linear maps A, I, T go from the center stable space at the point Fi of X and go to the center stable space at Fi plus 1 of X. So on the df do the same. df at the point Fi of X do the same. So that are two linear maps from the same space to the same space. We can compare them. And so we want that the difference is always less than epsilon. So in some sense, these matrices are epsilon perturbation of my derivative. We want that it varies continuously with t. So we want that T maps to AIT is continuous. Okay? And we want that when you have at 0, i.e. 0 is nothing else than the derivative. Of x. But now if you look at what happened with the parameter -1, then I don't know what happened in the middle, but I know what I want for the return map, that is, you look ak -1 times ak -1 that was -1 already, -1, -2, times and so on, until a0, -1. So what I want for this matrix is that it has 1 as an eigenvalue, on the other strictly less than 1, as I assume that the Jacobian is always less than 1. So that is for the parameter -1, and I want for the other parameters a completely different behavior. So if you now you look at ak -1, 1 times and so on until a0, 1, I want that this one is a homothétie. Okay, so I want that the derivative of my periodic point can be changed in two completely different behavior. One is close to be a saddle, that is, I can make a small perturbation and I will have this one as expanding, so I will get a saddle. For this moment I have only a saddle node. Okay, and for the other, I want that at the contrary it contract the best way possible, that is homothétie. Okay, I want that the same saddle, you can make perturbation from homothétie to saddle type. Okay? And so there is a first paper where we prove that in this setting, for any epsilon, epsilon flexible periodic orbit are dense. In this setting, for any epsilon periodic dense, periodic orbit flexible points are dense. So that is mostly a first paper, but that is not so fun. That's purely linear algebra on hyperbolic behavior and so on, and to look at what do the differential when we pass close to some point. Let me show, if I have any time, yes, I think I can state the use of that theorem. Assume that X is an epsilon flexible. Is epsilon flexible? Then so there exists. So let me draw. So I have my point X. It's a point with large stable, so that is the disk. So if you want, I have here my point X, and that is its stable manifold. So that is the stable manifold of X. All happen in the stable manifold, so is what I am looking. So I'm looking first fundamental domain here. So let's take here its image. So that is F at the power the period of the stable manifold of X. Take any point here, its image, I don't know where, F of Z, Fk of Z, and now take any path. Choose any you do what you want. You draw some path. Maybe no, you draw some path. You take the path that you want. And the statement is that, so for any gamma, joining, so that gamma of 0, gamma of 1 is fk of gamma of 0 in the stable manifold. Then exists G, which is epsilon C1 close to F, and G is equal to F out of an arbitrarily small neighborhood of X, and so that the derivative of gk of X, so X is still a pointer, jk of X is still equal to X, but the derivative at the point is precisely this one, is ak minus 1 until a0 minus 1. That is as a 1 as an eigenvalue and another which is less than 1. So I have a strong stable manifold. I have a non-stable manifold, stable manifold of X. And I want that this one coincide with gamma. So let's put that in the, otherwise I have make a more difficult statement. Sorry. You put this one like that in the, so let's take intersection with fundamental domain for f of x minus fk of this of x. That will be gamma. So these flexible points are called like that because what I am writing here is that, okay, you start with something which was contracting. I know that I can change the derivative to make it a saddle, and I can choose the stable manifold in a fundamental domain as you want. You choose, we make the perturbation, it will be the curve that you choose. So it's some practical property that you can, that give you a lot of freedom. So if I make a break, it can be time for making a break, I think.
What will break now?
That can be a time for making break. I will make the proof of that just after.
No, but my problem is that I don't understand.
Okay. So
Break would also be.
Maybe I remake the picture.
Could you maybe quietly read again what is written here?
Yes.
I just don't.
I did not put a what hole because it's long to explain that. You take any curve in the first fundamental.
Which is periodic for f, yes?
So you have x periodic for f.
Right. Okay. Then
For f,
what
and which has this property of variation of this derivative that I can make change, that I call to be epsilon flexible. So this point with this property.
So can you explain again this property?
Yes. Someone want to explain him. So what I want is that, so you know this point has a very long period. So the derivative at the return is dfk is the product of df at x times df at f of x, and so on. And df at k minus 1 of x. Okay. you take the product df at f k minus 1 of x. That's df at f of x. So, okay. You look that, and now you allow an epsilon perturbation.
Okay.
But not perturbation, deformation. So I will put epsilon, but I will with parameters. Epsilon with t.
The formation of f.
Of df.
Okay, to change df, you need to.
Okay,
change
so I have now that I changed to matrices A, I, so that will be 0, I, t. Okay, t is my parameters, t in minus 1, 1. Okay? And so I look at what's happened when I look the parameter 1 and what's happened when the parameter minus 1.
T is 0, you have the old.
When you have 0, if you take 0 here, that is equal.
Okay.
But then you have the minus 1 on the, you have the t, you have the minus 1 on the 1. And when it is minus 1, I want that mostly it is a saddle. But in fact, I stopped before, I stopped when I get some eigenvalue equal to 1. And when it is 1, I want that it is an homothétie. Okay. And so...
You mean composition?
Homothétie?
You have.
That I want that the composition of all that, the product of all that will be lambda, 0, 0, lambda. Lambda less than 1.
To do this, you need to change also f to have such.
For the moment, it's linear algebra.
Linear, okay.
Okay.
Then,
And the statement is when you have such property, then so it's a very strange, it's a magical property. So it's normal that it's not so easy to keep the ID. I think it's an unbelievable property. You take your point, that is just its stable manifold of X for F. And you take the first fundamental domain because it was an attracting point. So you have here an annulus. And so you take any point here, Z, you take its image, F of Z, Fk of Z, sorry, of Z. And now you choose as you want.
so it's on picture.
Yes.
Joining
But you choose.
it's your gamma, yes?
For any gamma, you can decide that after perturbation of your diffeomorphism along the a very small neighborhood of your orbit, you will have this curve as your stable manifold of your point. You have total freedom
Of which point?
of your point X. Its stable manifold will do strange things here, but when it arrives, it's what you choose. So you need to choose two curves in it. Okay? But you have just complete freedom.
So you explain this.
Yes, that was the statement, and I propose to make a break, and after the break to explain the proof of that a little bit.
So let's make a short break.
A very short break, maybe. 5-minute break?
Okay. Michał, it's a chairman. Okay. We have 6 minutes. Digest.
Thank you for making questions. It's nice. I think it's not an easy property. But bringing freedom is always useful.
Did you quantify the small neighborhood?
Sorry?
Did you quantify the small neighborhood of X? So G equals F out of a small neighborhood.
Arbitrarily small.
Arbitrarily small.
Yes, it's a truly local thing.
Just X, not the whole orbit.
So that is something magic from the C1 topology. That is, if you renormalize by homothéty, you don't change the C1 norm. When the C2 norm is multiplied by a power. Okay, so that is, this argument this time is truly C1. If you want to get the same in C2, you will need to find other arguments. Many times we start by doing things C1 and after people trying to make C2. Up to now, this one is a truly C1 argument.
At least it is not like closing lemma, you don't have recurrence.
Yes.
You make changes which don't
Closing lemma,
are not recurrent.
The fact that the size don't depend on the rescaling is what makes that the closing lemma work C1 and not C2.
C2 you would have troubles.
Oh yes, I forget to stop the record.